Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. We're just here and we're going to talk about the playoffs now. So I just got done doing a 2-hour mock draft with Bryce Simon. Go to the YouTube channel. You'll be able to see everything that we talked about, all 30 of the picks, everything that we went through, diving into every single pick in detail in the first round. So go there. That is the first thing that you need to know. Second thing, hit the subscribe button while you're here. Hit the like button while you're here. It's really valuable to help the channel grow. It is super, super helpful to us. This will be a YouTube exclusive video. We're going to go deep. We're going to dive into some tape and we're going to talk about the Cavs Magic game from last night or this morning, I guess. It's 3:00 in the morning here when that happened. And then we're going to talk about the Wolves Nuggets game from yesterday and some of the ways that Minnesota decided to defend Nikola Jokic. We're going to talk about some of the ways that Anthony Edwards got going in that game. With Cavs and Magic, though, we're going to start there because that's the one that just occurred. Okay. So the Cavs beat the Magic 106-94 to move into the second round where they will play the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. I thought Orlando did yeoman's work to stay in the series for the most part. It was entirely a home court series. If you look through, all 7 games were won by the teams that had home court advantage for those games. And that's not overly surprising when you're talking about a team in Orlando, doesn't have any playoff experience, still quite young. There were guys I thought that really acquitted themselves well, and there were guys that I thought maybe there are some questions here moving forward about how their games will translate to the playoffs and how they will be able to play on the road in the playoffs, maybe moving forward. Jalen Suggs, probably a prime example, a guy that, we've always been a fan of on this show. He has a 2 for 13 day to day, has 5 turnovers. If you look at the games that occurred in Orlando, game 3, for instance, he goes for 24 points, shoots it super well, plays great defense. Game 4, I thought he was super energetic in that game, played really well. Game 6, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. You look at the 2 most recent games in Cleveland, 13 points on 35% shooting. Today, 10 points, 15% shooting, 5 turnovers. They need to find an answer in terms of like offensive generation in the backcourt. We'll talk about that when we do the offseason preview with Bryce. Franz Wagner obviously struggled today, did not play super, super well. Wouldn't say he like outright laid an egg, but like didn't play up to the level that we expect Franz Wagner to play at. He goes 1 for 15. Maybe he did actually have a stinker. Now looking at the box score. This is the first time I'm looking at the box score for this. It did not feel like 1 for 15, but I felt like he moved the ball well. I felt like he was not horrendous on defense, but yeah, if you go 1 for 15, that's a full scale stinker. It did not feel like that when I was watching that game. That's interesting. The guy who stood up was Paulo. Paulo goes 38 points, 16 rebounds, had 24 in the first half, was ready to go from the jump, played really ridiculously well. It felt like throughout the course of the game up until, really, I would guess midway through that third quarter when the Cavs went on that run. He still goes for 38, gets to the foul line 18 times. It felt like to me, the biggest thing for the Magic in this game is that they took advantage of the size question that Cleveland had without Jared Allen. They played pretty small in this game. They played Evan Mobley at the 5. They played Isaac Okoro and Max Strus on the wings, and you could see it in terms of Orlando just crashing the glass. They had 18 offensive rebounds. They played super, super aggressively on the glass, it felt like to me. But at a certain point, what I felt like switched this game, and maybe this is where we will transition into Cleveland now. It felt like to me that they stopped kind of driving all the way to the rim, and Cleveland just kept going. Cleveland was fearless. They kept trying to pressure the paint. They kept trying to get downhill. Donovan Mitchell ends up the line 17 times himself. They go for 36 free throws. I felt like they really just continued to try and get downhill. And that's where I want to start as we break down tape, is just talking about Donovan Mitchell. I thought Donovan Mitchell was outstanding, going for 39 points in this game. There's just not really another way to say what he was. I thought he was just outwardly outstanding across the board. And we're going to bring up some tape now and talk about this. So you're going to see here, like literally, this is, maybe the second possession of the game for Cleveland, something like that. And while I felt like Suggs was aggressive and strong and tried to like really get into Donovan Mitchell's space, it felt like the Cavs did a pretty good job, A, of trying to get Donovan away from Suggs, and B, Donovan did a good job of like kind of pushing Suggs away from him, like in a real way. And you look at Donovan's last two games, his regulator brings up in the YouTube comments, he goes for 89 points in these last two games. Donovan was just completely ridiculous in this series. Let's just kind of jump in and talk about what we're seeing here on tape. And I think that the big thing I want you guys to look at here, if you remember the Cavs last playoffs, what I thought they really struggled with was having the requisite spacing on the court to where the Knicks, it felt like, could just condense and collapse and really try and make things hard on Donovan Mitchell as a driver and on Darius Garland as a driver. Orlando, I think, made some choices to not do that in terms of the way that they wanted to play and to play and help defense. Also, I felt like Cleveland's addition of Max Strus and Sam Merrill, to a lesser extent, he hit 2 big threes in the second quarter, I think played a critical role in making it so that teams couldn't necessarily help off as aggressively as we saw New York do it last year in the playoffs. The other piece of this is that Jarrett Allen was missing in this game. Now, Jarrett Allen being out was a problem for Cleveland. We need to be very clear about that. There is no question as we move through this tape that Jarrett Allen being out was like a huge problem for Cleveland. Again, they gave up 18 offensive rebounds in part because of that. If you go back to game 6, Jarrett Allen being out of that game, I think, was the reason that they lost, because Orlando was able to bludgeon them and just get to the rim and really aggressively attack in that way at the offensive glass. I thought they gave up way too many easy offensive rebounds late in that game, in game 6. In game 7, now, Allen is still out. Mobley is in. I thought Mobley was amazing defensively in this game. Obviously, he hit some timely buckets in the fourth, and I think that's what got people really excited about Evan Mobley's game. Mobley was amazing defensively in this game, I felt like, though. The bigger thing for me is that the Cavs' court was a little bit more well-spaced, and it allowed guys like Donovan Mitchell particularly to be able to get to where they wanted to go. So let's talk through this a little bit as we go through. So this is setting up here as basically an empty side double drag, this set. So you've got Max Strus, the first one, Evan Mobley, the second one, and Donovan can kind of go multiple ways here in terms of how to attack this, right? He can go all the way around here and try and get downhill this way and force Wendell Carter into a downhill situation. He can kind of split this and try and get over here and get Franz Wagner into more of a isolation where he has to guard one-on-one, especially because most teams, they tend to switch that first action in a double drag, which would be Suggs and Strus there, being Suggs being screened by Strus. Or you could just hope that Franz you go around here, you hope Franz goes under this as he tries to get into the play and make it so that Carter can stay attached here to Evan Mobley. And you can just step up and shoot behind if you're Donovan Mitchell. That's what makes a set like this, an empty side double drag, so hard to guard. What Mitchell does, he stops, he snakes it, and basically splits this double drag. And then he gets Franz Wagner downhill. And he's just going to get to the basket with ease. And the thing I want to call out here is Paulo. So I thought Paulo played an incredible basketball game today. And I don't really want to spend an immense amount of time shitting on Paolo Banchero, because Paolo Banchero was incredible in this game. And I want to say that like 4 or 5 times as we talk about this. I thought that the way the Magic utilized Paolo Banchero as a help defender was not great. And I thought that Paulo himself was a little bit late in help situations. In my opinion, when Paulo is guarding Isaac Okoro here, he needs to be much more aggressive coming off in help and being willing to contest this shot at the rim. Instead, he kind of lets it go, stops short here on the other side of the rim, and it results in an easy layup for Donovan Mitchell. Again, I don't want to spend a lot of time shitting on Paulo. I thought Paulo was great today. I thought there were some defensive mistakes, both schematically and on his part, that caused issues for Orlando in this game. Next one here. This is an offensive rebound by by Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson gave them really good minutes today too, I thought. Now you've got Donovan Mitchell out on Markelle Fultz. Tristan goes out, sets a screen. It feels like to me that they're trying to make it so that they're denying the middle of the court is the goal here. They want Mitchell to go baseline. You can see that Mo Wagner is calling this out here. I think he's calling this out almost for Jonathan Isaac's sake, to be able to say to Isaac, hey, I'm going out this way. We're going to try and cut him off this way. That means that Isaac has to be there for help. They're trying to force baseline here. Isaac is there for help, and that's just a sick finish by Donovan Mitchell. Nothing you can do about that. That's just Donovan Mitchell being an unbelievable player, going over the top of one of the best defenders on a permanent basis in the NBA. Everything right there, Donovan Mitchell just being special. This one, again, they get Franz Wagner cross-matched this time in transition, right? Jalen Suggs is on the court here. They have Suggs on Darius Garland for this possession because it's a cross-match situation. Again, by the way, Orlando up 17 right now in the second quarter. In this one, again, what I want you to point out, or what I want you to see, Paulo is guarding, I believe that's Isaac Okoro again in the corner. Last year, you would have seen the Knicks, for instance, just have Paulo shoot over this way. They would have helped. It wouldn't have just been a stunt. It would have been a full-scale help to stop in the lane. Instead, ends up putting Franz a little bit behind the 8 ball, ends up being a foul. This isn't to say that Paulo is wrong here. This is where I'm saying that I think this is scheme-based more so than like Paulo making an error based. Paulo, I think, is doing his job. My guess is that they're telling him that they want him to stunt as opposed to help. I would venture they're saying stunt, then be able to get out to the shooter. And part of this is that Isaac Okoro, by the way, has improved as a shooter. He has gotten better at knocking down shots. Isaac Okoro this season made 39.1% of his threes. Having said that, I know that if I was Cleveland, or if I was Orlando, I'm sorry, I would want to bet on Isaac Okoro missing a shot more than I would want to bet on Donovan Mitchell, who has like a slight angle on Franz Wagner there after a blow by, being able to get to the line. Next one, Mitchell here again, being guarded by Gary Harris, and this is just sick. He's just splitting guys, right? This is just Donovan Mitchell being great. This is essentially going to be a dribble handoff from Sam Merrill, which means this has to be guarded in a complex way. So it's a complicated dribble handoff because essentially you have to guard this like a Spain action, given the way this is setting up. I don't know if this is actually meant to be a Spain action, given the way it kind of sets up, but it does essentially end up being that. So Donovan's going to come around here, and then Mobley is going to essentially like screen here, potentially be available to screen the screener, right? So you're coming across, you have Gary Harris kind of trailing behind the play. I actually think they kind of do the right thing here, Orlando, having Suggs come off and help come to the elbow here, try and stop Mitchell, and then have Gary Harris peel switch off onto the wing, and I believe that's Karis LeVert. And they do that. I think that's the right way to guard this, but like, again, Paulo in the corner. This is strong side corner. It's, not always a typical help, which again to me says scheme, not Paulo's fault. But Paulo's just standing there, just like not being active, completely flat footed. Some of that is on him too, to even like not even influence that as a potential play. Next, this is just a blow by from Donovan Mitchell. Gets right by, gets in transition. A big thing for Donovan in this game was, could they get him cross-matched on anybody? Was there a way for Donovan to push tempo, try and get in transition, try to get him cross-matched on somebody like Paulo, like Wendell Carter, like Franz Wagner? This time they get him on Paulo, easy score. This one, Evan Mobley, ball screen. They decide with Jalen Suggs to go under or to go over. I'm sorry. They go over the ball screen there. And Mitchell just feels like he has that inkling of space that he needs to get the shot off. It's just Donovan Mitchell being sick, right? This one, again, essentially sets up as an empty side double drag. This time Paulo comes over and helps off the weak side, right? And again, you can see that Donovan, he's trying to get to that split of that double drag there. So Strus is going to screen, then rescreen, and it's going to act as the empty double drag again that we saw in the first play that we broke down, right? So Mitchell clearly, I think, saw something that he liked in the Franz Wagner matchup, especially in these kind of actions. And he kind of attacked it pretty regularly. So this one here, Mitchell just gets that ball out, really gets that crossover out there into space where there's nobody home. And now you've got Paulo, and Paulo has to help way off. I think Paulo does the right thing here. He gets there. He contested the basket. There are just tools that, great rim protectors have that Paulo isn't quite there yet with. He's not a particularly vertical player at this point, and that's okay. Next up, again, empty side double drag. This time, Donovan Mitchell takes it. He takes both players. You've got Garland here. This is why it's empty. Garland is coming up here. He's just trailing the play. He'll eventually filter to the wing. But instead of snaking it this time to get to Wagner in the ISO on the empty side of the court, Strus is going to go around both and put Wendell Carter in a really tough spot here where Wendell has to stay in front. And again, Carter, I think, does a pretty good job there, staying in front. If it was me and I was Jamal Mosley, I don't think this is Paulo's fault. Again, to me, this is coaching, not Paulo. This is scheme. I would be doing at this point, especially in the second half, whatever I can to stop Donovan Mitchell from getting paint touches. I would have been more aggressive having Paulo cut off Donovan Mitchell to the paint and force this same side kick out. I would want Isaac Okoro to beat me. I would not want Donovan Mitchell to beat me. And I like Isaac Okoro. I think he's a really, really good player, really good role player, really good defender. I would rather have him beat me than Donovan Mitchell at the end of the day, especially with the way Donovan's been playing in this series. He does a great job with the decel move there to get that little bit of space against Carter, scores. This is an awesome, just little pitch back, dribble handoff. What's the goal here with this little pitch back? We're just trying to get Donovan Mitchell downhill, right? I love how aggressive, look at how aggressive Wendell Carter is helping off now. Look at how aggressive this help is from Wendell Carter. He's going to come up and he's going to be available right here to wall off and try and stop Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell is just a sick player with his footwork. He's able to get around, Euro step around, score. Even with like a knee injury that has not been ideal for Donovan Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell is still able to get to the basket. He's not going to be able to finish above the rim in the way that we saw when he was younger, but his footwork, his burst, all of that stuff is still there. Next up, Mitchell. Again, this time on Suggs. This is one that kind of drove me a little bit crazy, to be honest with you. I just think that you need to be more aggressive trying to get the ball out of Donovan's hands here. I know that Jalen Suggs is an all defense guy. I think he's unbelievable. I am an enormous Jalen Suggs fan, but once you see this, to me, I mean, Mo Wagner's got to come up here. You've got to get the help down from Paulo, and you've got to make Okoro again be the guy that's open and beat you. I just think that you've got to absolutely force the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands. And I don't think Orlando did a good enough job forcing the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands. This time, again, coming up in transition, as you can see, this is the third quarter run where Cleveland, I think they won the third quarter by like 18 points. This one is complicated, right? So, like, my guess on what they're looking to do here, Orlando, is have, I'm actually not entirely sure who they want to have pick up Donovan in transition here. I'm assuming that they prefer Franz to pick him up there, but Markelle Fultz here is just kind of in no man's land almost. It looks like Fultz picks up the big or no, Fultz is picking up LeVert. That's not a big. That's what's happening here. Okay. So Fultz is picking up LeVert. Franz is picking up Donovan Mitchell. And then you've got Mo Wagner as the trailer, right? Mo Wagner is responsible for Evan Mobley. And because he's responsible for Mobley, Mobley's not crossed half court up until now. He feels like he can be a little bit more aggressive helping on Donovan Mitchell. I feel like this kind of screwed up their communication line a little bit after that little ghost action there from Karis LeVert. So Karis is going to ghost across. It feels like their communication kind of breaks down in terms of who they want to switch on to Karis LeVert here, who they want to take Mobley here, and if they want Franz to stay attached to Mitchell, or do you want Markelle to kind of like shoot around and try and get, it just felt very confusing in terms of communication there. Donovan Mitchell takes advantage again, pushing tempo, trying to get cross matches in transition. That's the kind of stuff that helps. Now you've got Isaac picking up in transition. Jonathan Isaac, again, unbelievable defender. Thompson gets the screen. This time, Mo Wagner goes in drop, not near to the level of this situation. I think I'm frozen for some reason. There we go. It's a deep three. I mean, I guess they're probably going to, their principles based on where Mo is playing, they're probably pretty comfortable with him taking that, but I would not feel comfortable with him taking that. I would want Mo higher, but again, that seems like more of a principles thing to me. And then this one, we're just trying to get cross matches again, right? We're trying to get mismatches. This is a fun set where you're essentially running like a twirl pin where it sets up like Max Strus is going to come up and maybe come to here for like some sort of like ghost screen action from Garland where like, you know, Garland dribbles up. You've got Strus coming up this way. He fakes like he's going to set a screen, then shoots this way out to three. Instead, it's twirl pin down where Donovan's guy is here. You're going to have Strus come across, screen Donovan's guy. Then you're going to have Donovan come across into like what essentially acts as like a double pin down here. And he's going to curl off the double pin down. And he's going to force that switch onto Wendell Carter. That has to be a peel switch there. There's just no other option. And that's a pure mismatch. That is Donovan Mitchell just getting into space against a guy that good defender, good mobility for a big. It's still a big. It's still absolutely a big. As you can see, I did not love the way Orlando did not adjust defensively in this game. I felt like they should have been way more aggressive helping off of Isaac Okoro. I felt like they should have been way more aggressive making other guys than Donovan Mitchell beat them, particularly Garland. Now, as I say that, I thought that a big factor for Cleveland was Sam Merrill and Max Strus. Having guys who are genuine floor spacers out there that you can run actions for, the teams have to guard when they're spacing on drives is huge. So this time, you remember how the last play there for Donovan, I broke down how, essentially it's set up as like a double pin down where you're having Sam Merrill come up trying to get a little bit of space to fire from three off of these two pin downs here. And you have Sam Merrill's man chasing. I believe that's Cole Anthony just getting behind. I mean, this is the same play. It's just a counter we watched the counter last time in the fourth quarter, right? The counter is that twirl pin where instead of coming off of these pin downs, Sam Merrill would stop and pin and then have Strus come around for the three. This time it's Merrill just coming around. He feels like he's got some space, fires, cans it. Next one here. Again, transition. Sam Merrill drills it. You have to find the shooters. You absolutely have to find the shooters. This is something that Cleveland with Karis LeVert, with Isaac Okoro out there last year just didn't have, because Isaac Okoro might be able to make a spot three, but you can't run shit for him like you can with Strus and Merrill. And that creates offense in a real way. So this one, again, just like a quick dribble handoff. Just watch Max Strus moving without the ball constantly on this play, right? And this isn't like I would venture this is not a tried and true set for Max Strus necessarily. I would venture that this is just, kind of running their continuity offense. So Max Strus comes, sets this little baseline screen for Darius Garland to come off of to try and get him away from Gary Harris. Strus filters to the other side briefly, then counters back to the corner. And he comes up, realizes he's got that little bit of space against Franz. I thought Franz really struggled defensively just to stay attached to guys in this game. Next one. This is just a fun little flare off of an offensive rebound, right? So like Evan Mobley gets this out, gets the kick out, realizes that Franz has kind of lost track of Max Strus here. Strus bangs a three again. Got to stay attached. You got to know where your guys are at all times. And I think last year Cleveland just didn't have that. And then this is maybe either the last one or the second to last one. This is entry pass, then like a veer screen away. And again, Wagner just gets caught in the masses of bodies there. Off of this beautiful little ghost. And goes. Drills it. You can see he's pumped. Big Max Strus fan at this show. Darius Garland misses this three. Cole Anthony yelling for Mo to be back out. Kind of loses track again of where of what his responsibility is going to be if he tells Franz to peel off of Garland and get onto LeVert. He gets caught ball watching. Garland bangs a three. And I think that was basically game once that happened. So Cavs deserved this win. I thought the Cavs played super, super well. And I thought they were the team that was ready to go from Jump Street here. I think they were the ones that had the experience, it felt like. And that's fine. Like the Magic should be super happy with how this season went. We'll talk about them in the offseason preview. We'll break down kind of everything that they have. They have a lot of options on their table. They really should be trying to spend money this summer. They have cap space. Guys like Malik Monk, guys like, Anthony Simons, if you could make a trade for him, those guys make a ton of sense for Orlando moving forward. And I'm really excited to see what they do. But Cleveland today was just a better team, and they were the more experienced team. They didn't stop driving. They didn't stop attacking. They didn't get scared when Orlando went up 17. It just felt like they were ready to go in a way that Orlando, this experience will probably help them moving forward. Okay. Now let's talk about that Minnesota Denver game, because that was, I don't know if it was the best played game of the playoffs, but there is a very real case that it was. Everything across the board there in that game, that series looks like it's going to be amazing. Minnesota wins this 106-99. I think that this caught a lot of people by surprise. The reason I think it caught a lot of people by surprise is that Denver is a great home court team with a real home court advantage, playing at elevation. And Minnesota is still young, theoretically, in the context of this core playing together in the playoffs and having experience. What I think we saw, though, is that Minnesota, being built by Tim Connolly, has a team that is very much built toward causing Nikola Jokic problems, causing Jamal Murray problems. And if you can cause that two-man game real issues, I think what you find is that Denver is a little bit easier to guard. So having Jaden McDaniels, having Nickeil Alexander-Walker, having Anthony Edwards, guys that can really, really guard at the point of attack, and then having multiple big bodies, Karl Towns, Rudy Gobert, to be able to throw at Jokic repeatedly, I think is a huge, huge factor as we kind of talk about this game. And let's just kind of jump into the tape here, because the biggest thing I want to talk about is just how they guarded Jokic. We're going to jump into like a bunch of clips here. I'm not going to stop on every single one that we run through here, but what I want you guys to see is just the different looks they threw at them, what was successful, what was not successful. So the way that they matched up early in this game was Anthony Edwards on Jamal Murray. This is a cross match, I believe, on the second possession for Denver, where I think that Towns picked up Gordon in transition, but that Gobert, and typically the idea was they want to Gobert on Gordon, Towns on Jokic, help off of Gordon, be able to throw multiple looks at Jokic, try and gum up that area and that space of the court and make things a little bit more difficult. So this one, they get a cross match here where it's Gobert on Jokic. And just look at how tough it is for Jokic to kind of gain that space and gain that separation. Gobert forces him into that tough shot. Jokic can make those, but it's hard. This one, fun little set. Again, you see Towns follow Jokic here. Again, body. Then you bring the second body over and you force him to take that wide fall away, right? So watch Gobert here particularly. Watch how Gobert, and this is something that I thought he did incredibly well throughout the course of the game, Gobert would stunt and then get back to Gordon. He would make it seem like I'm coming over to double, but in reality, he's so long and so able to stay attached to Gordon that it was a stunt as opposed to an actual double. So look, he comes here, makes Jokic pick up the ball. Then he's back to Gordon. He's so long, he's active, he's able to get from here back to here. And now you've got Jokic taking a one-legged fadeaway where his foot is pointed that way. And we know that Jokic can do things like this and can make these shots. This is a much less efficient shot than Jokic bullying his way all the way to the rim, which is what he typically does in these circumstances. Next one, Jokic in transition, gets the cross match. Jaden McDaniels does a great job of just getting his hands in there. But if Jaden's off by an inch here, look at how far Jokic pushes him back, and that's an easy layup. The key for Denver is getting Jokic cross-matched in transition in any way that they can, but that's much easier said than done. Again, now you get Jokic, like ram screen into a post up for Jokic. Again, just moves Gobert back, but gets to a spot where he's much more comfortable and gets to an area where he's not leaning all the way back. He's much more balanced, much more straight up there. Another thing to consider, no Towns on the court right now. You have Naz Reid out there. Naz Reid is not as good defensively at like being able to stunt and recover and do all of that stuff as Rudy Gobert is. Easier bucket for Jokic there. Next. We're going to see eventually somebody come for a dribble handoff. Good screen. Porter drills it. This is a matchup that I think Denver can take a little bit better advantage of. Is Naz Reid if he's going to pick up Porter. I like the idea of Denver running more actions at Naz Reid and forcing him to guard in space against actions. I would force him to guard in space. Next. This one just ends up being kind of like a seal, right? Where, all right, we're back to the last one. We'll watch it again one more time. This is just like a quick little like Gortat screen almost where Reggie Jackson realizes he has the space and then Naz Reid has to help off. Jokic is able to seal. Good foul there by Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Make him earn it at the line. Next. Again, this is Towns on Jokic. Now we're standing. And this is just Towns being a little bit too worried about Jokic, staying attached, being as physical as he can with Jokic, and then Ant kind of getting caught behind a little bit. That's going to happen. That's not that big of a deal. But look at Kyle Anderson being available on the weak side, right? Their defense is really good. They fly around. They're always active. They're always aggressive. This one, Jokic gets the ball at that foul line area. Just a quick little help in from Kyle Anderson off of Reggie Jackson. Quick little help in from Ant off of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I believe that is. Ends up being a pick and pop where they can get into rhythm, right? This is where Denver, I thought, was in its best offensive flow in this game. He sees that little help from Ant. Ant goes under. It's really hard to deal with Jokic if you go under screens, in my opinion. If I was Minnesota, I would probably try to go over most screen actions. Even with Caldwell-Pope can shoot it a little bit, but if you go under and then like you're playing in drop, it's just going to be way too easy of a walk-in three for Jokic. Jokic did miss some threes in this game. He missed quite a few. Looking at the box score, he went 2 for 9 from 3, and we're going to watch a lot of them. You'll see how I felt like they kind of disrupted him on the missed threes as opposed to that one, which was just like, I'm walking in, I'm stepping into the shot, and I'm making this shot from 3. You know, Lars G brings up the Nuggets shot 42% from 3 and almost 47% overall. I'm going to be honest. I felt like it wasn't the 3-point shooting that let down Denver. I thought it was the 2-point shots. I thought Jamal Murray particularly might have a couple examples of this in the clips where he kind of smoked, I think 4 layups or so. And I felt like Jokic might have missed a couple. I feel like Porter maybe missed one. It was more just like they smoked layups. Christian Brown definitely missed one. It was more that than the threes. And I agree with AA. I can live with Jokic shooting threes if I'm the Timberwolves. That will be what happens. Like I would venture that Minnesota is going to try to make Jokic a scorer more than anything and try to confuse that space for him as a passer. And there was also a run in the third quarter, I believe, where he got a little bit loose as a passer. We'll see as we kind of go through the clips. This is just really smart from Jokic here. Again, you'll notice both Towns and Gobert out there. This time Gobert is on Jokic. Jokic goes like he's going to set a screen. Gobert is super attached to him, so Jokic just spins off of it. And I love how available Karl Towns is. Over the years, I've been very skeptical of Karl Towns as a help defender. I think he's gotten way better this year. Even just this rotation here is such a prime example of him being willing and just being much more aware than what he's been in the past. This year, I thought he was way better in help defense. I still think there are some concerns that you might be able to exploit at times with the too big arrangement. But he was much more aware in help this year. And this time he forces the travel call because Jokic ends up catching an air ball. Next, Jokic again on Gobert. This time, Karl Towns is cross-matched in transition with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on the same side. That makes it very difficult to help. And you're going to see Jokic just bullies Gobert backward because Towns can't really go. This is the area where you can make Jokic a scorer, and it won't be a good idea. If I was Denver, I would try to run as many sets as possible to try to get Towns cross-matched onto shooters off the ball. I would want Towns on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and I would post and then have Towns on the same side like he was here. I think this is something that is sustainable for Denver to be able to do if the Timberwolves are going to force Jokic into being a scorer, because his touch, I believe in him being able to score those shots effectively. The other thing is here, look at Gobert get away with this little one here. Look at him literally grabbing the jersey. You're going to see it pull away. Look at that. Man, if you don't think the NBA is letting go of contact, I mean, that's a prime example of what the NBA is letting go right now. That's a bad one. You can even see Jokic kind of grab the jersey, say, man, he like had me the whole time. Yeah, it's not an ideal one. Next up, Gobert again picks up in transition. Jokic. Now we're running an empty side ball screen with Reggie Jackson. That's a wide open kick out three. That's a shot that I think Denver should be comfortable with. If Nikola Jokic is going to get a wide open kick out three, that's fine. But also, the thing that I want to point out here is look at how far Gobert drops here. Gobert full scale drops off of Jokic to cut this off. They're not relying on Towns to be the help side defender or Ant to come in from the elbow. They are saying with Gobert, we're going to help here. And if Jokic is just going to pop to the 3-point line, that's a shot we're comfortable with. And then we trust Rudy to go out and get that late contest because it typically takes Jokic that extra split second to be able to load into the shot. I think this is really, really smart from Minnesota. That's an example, a prime example of them forcing Nikola Jokic into being a scorer. Next one. Again, rebound, transition. This is a breakdown in communication, right? So you're going to see Gobert. Gobert is pointing to Towns. Towns, you're going to see come into the picture here momentarily. He's saying that he wants Towns to go over and take Jokic. He's saying, go, take Jokic, and I will recover back onto your man. Towns is telling him, go, take Jokic in transition, and then we see the full what the fuck is going on from Towns. We got the arms out. We got the what's happening here. What are we doing? That's just a breakdown. But again, look at Mike Conley help, and then you've got Christian Brown off of the help. Just a little too easy that time. That was just a breakdown at the end of the day. Again, though, that to me, the reason I put that on there is that to me is like a prime example of what Minnesota prefers here. Minnesota prefers Towns on Jokic and to use Gobert as the help man, especially when Peyton Watson is in the game. Next, we're at 4 minutes left in the second. Ball screen for Jokic. Naz Reid there. This one is an example of where having Peyton Watson on the court is really tough for Denver in this series, in my opinion. Peyton Watson in this game ended up a +2, but only played 6 minutes. I think probably because Denver figured out that there were some issues here. So why is this a problem off of this screen? So Gobert, as I mentioned on that last possession, when Peyton Watson's on the court, they want Gobert on Watson, and they want to use Gobert as the help man. Watson is still very young, and he's still trying to figure out how to space the court. He just kind of filters to the dunker spot here. Him filtering to the dunker spot here is just about the worst thing that he could do, because all that he's doing by filtering to the dunker spot when he has Rudy Gobert on him is put Rudy Gobert at the basket. That's a bad plan. Reed does a good job contesting, but it forces Jokic into that difficult shot, fade away from like 14 feet, 13 feet, whatever it was. Next, again, Reed on Jokic. You get the heavy help from Gobert off of KCP. So we'll go back and take a look. So you get Jokic in the middle of the court, trying to be physical with him at the top. Right here, when Jokic puts his shoulder down and gets leverage on Naz Reid, this is where Gobert thinks he has to go help. He has Jaden McDaniels at the bottom. I'm assuming he thinks that Jaden can get up there. Jaden's a pretty special defender. I don't know if I totally love that, but whatever. He goes to help, tries to actually strip Jokic. Jokic feels that strip. So despite the fact that he doesn't have eyes on KCP, he can just throw this ball back. He knows KCP is going to be there. And now you're forcing this long closeout. Again, I really like the idea of when Gobert is the help man and he gets cross-matched on somebody like a KCP. Emptying this side of the court out, filtering Peyton Watson through, having Brown go here, having Reggie Jackson go here, and then having KCP filter to the wing. In making it so that Gobert can't really help. But even when he does, this is a wide open three, right? Finding ways to get cross matches in transition is going to be so big for Denver in this series because Denver has enough bodies to throw at Jamal Murray and Jokic. You have to find ways to get cross matches onto shooters, which makes it harder. So this one, they actually end up with Ant cross matched on Jokic in transition, right? Watch Ant and Gobert communicate this switch. Gobert yells over, says switch. Again, Peyton Watson's out there. Emptied out. That's a sick pass over to the corner for Jokic. But again, this is like the gravity of Nikola Jokic, right? Naz Reid is guarding a real shooter in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, like a genuine shooter. And he is all the way over here. He is in the paint right now. Jokic just fires that ball over, drills it. Next one, another one. Jokic in the middle, run a curl into an empty. And again, you notice they are playing full drop out of those empty actions with Gobert and Towns both. Ant fights over the top. Towns in drop, making Jokic beat them as a shooter. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. This one, Jokic just driving. I mean, too big, too strong for Rudy Gobert. Gobert, I think, is much better as the help defender in this series. Just much better than guarding Jokic one-on-one. Next, another empty off of a rescreen. This is an important one because we're going to get to a play later on where we're going to see that like lob, floater shot from Jokic that is so critical get taken away by Gobert. So screen into a screen. As soon as you go under on those actions, we've talked about this throughout the playoffs, Jokic is going to auto rescreen and then you're in pocket pass land. Watch Rudy Gobert here on the backside. So Rudy is here on the backside. A lot of help defenders would come straight up here and would be in like full scale help. Watch Rudy kind of think twice about it and end up in no man's land a little bit here. He doesn't actually jump. He ends up kind of stuck in the grass and like stuck in the mud a little bit. But that one's going to be key. Remember that later when we get to the fourth quarter. All right, this one, end of the second quarter. Jokic, they go over the screen in the two-man game. So no rescreen. Jokic just rolls. Good late contest from Rudy. Other thing worth noting there, watch Anthony Edwards help down. Oh, no, whether or not he does or not, he doesn't help, actually. I thought he ended up helping, but he didn't. Ant's just kind of in no man's land there. Doesn't matter. Jokic drills the floater. All right, third quarter now. First set. I love the first set of after halftime. I'm always curious to see what teams run. Empty between Aaron Gordon and Jokic is the screener after you have this action here to try and get like a little mini swap. Awesome screen, getting both Gobert and Towns in the action. I would love to see Denver do more of this because when Denver does this with Gobert and Towns, and then you have Gordon be the rim runner, both of your key bigs are away from the rim in some way, and you have three shooters around the court in KCP Porter and Jamal Murray. Basketball Genesis brings up, you'd love to see Mike Conley come up here and be there and be available to tag. Mike Conley could have a rocket up his ass here and he wouldn't be able to tag that lob threat from Aaron Gordon. Like there's just nothing that can be done there. There's absolutely nothing that can be done there. Jaden McDaniels, maybe one thing, but Mike Conley has no chance as the low man in that circumstance. So this one, again, transition, quick pass, out to Porter, drills the three, easy. Again, Looks like Towns tries to make contact with Jokic up top here. Sets up like it's going to be that empty side, Gordon, Jokic action again. I don't actually know what's going on with Towns there. He just kind of gets lost and Jokic goes by him. Next up, two-man game with KCP and Jokic. And Jokic rejects. But again, this is Towns guarding Jokic, bodying up with him. After Jokic gets this little step here, he's back in front, and you have Gobert back in front. That's a tough shot. Gordon eventually gets the foul call. But yeah, it's a lot tougher when Towns is the primary and Gobert is the help. That's the main takeaway I took away from this. Jokic gets a little frustrated, makes physical contact. You could see those last couple possessions were pretty physical. This one at the 9-minute mark, you could see Jokic kind of like bump a little bit there with his head. And then this one at the 6-minute mark or so, 7-minute mark, maybe. Oh no, this is literally the next possession down. He tries to just put his shoulder into him and like clown through him. Yeah, I mean, not an ideal one. I thought that Minnesota did a better job frustrating Jokic than I've seen before. I thought he just looked sped up and frustrated, and you'll see that at the end of the game too. He just looked frustrated in a way that I haven't always seen from him. This one, just a ridiculous shot from Jamal Murray here. He went scoreless in the first half. Murray was quite poor in this game, I thought. Got better in the second half, but yeah. The reason I put this one on here, just look at the gravity that Jokic has for Towns. Like, Towns is in drop here in theory. He just decides, I got to get back to Jokic, and they're going to have Gobert be the guy who's going to play at the basket here. It's an interesting way to play it. I mean, it forces like an absurd circus shot, so I don't hate it. It's just interesting that that's how they're choosing. You'll see a version of this play a few times at the end of the game. But again, now you've got Naz Reid, and now you're full-scale doubling with Gobert. Draws the foul. But again, Minnesota's starting to switch things up a little bit. Instead of just stunting, you're full-scale going out and helping this time. Trying to get Jokic the ball again. What I love here is the way that Gobert is kind of confusing that space with Gordon, right? Even as soon as Naz Reid gets up high, he realizes that he's got Gobert there, so he can try to get in front Jokic from getting this entry pass at all, knowing that he's got Gobert here as the behind defender to be able to contest if Jokic seals him. So he gets the front there, and there's Gobert just ready to peel off. Really, really smart. Again, different looks, different ways to go about playing Gobert, especially when Towns isn't out there, especially when it's Naz Reid. This time, Naz Reid totally emptied out. You've got Gobert coming to help. This one just feels a little bit too easy to me. This is Justin Holiday. Again, like telltale sign that even like Michael Malone maybe didn't think this is a great series for Peyton Watson, right? Didn't like the spacing that they had on offense. Justin Holiday in for Peyton Watson during that rotation at the third quarter here. Why does Kyle Anderson feel like he has to help off? So this time, Gobert is guarding Michael Porter Jr. here. Gobert feels like he has to go help on Jokic. This screen here from Reggie Jackson means that that's a wide open corner three. So essentially, Kyle Anderson is thinking this has to be an X out. And that little eye manipulation there from Jokic is pretty sick, where looks right to the corner there. You can see his eyes looking at the corner. which is where Kyle Anderson thinks I've got to go. He backpedals. Jokic just steps out, drills it to Justin Holiday, 3. Next, empty side again. Naz Reid in a tough spot. Same side double. It's a lot harder, though, when it's not already a cross match, and instead it's Anthony Edwards guarding KCP, right? I would prefer KCP probably just shoot this, to be honest. Instead, he decides to entry it again, and Reed gets the ball, gets the poke. I thought Jokic looked flustered in a way that I haven't seen before. I think Minnesota did a great job defensively, making it harder for him, confusing the space. This time, it's Naz Reid only on the court without Gobert or Towns. This is going to be tough. This is going to be real tough for Naz Reid. Jokic scores there. Gobert back on the court into the fourth quarter now. 2-man game, goes over the top. Back out to the top. Good defense. Forces a 3 where Jokic's momentum is going away from the rim as opposed to stepping into it. Having to not load as quickly. That's a serious thing, right? Now what are we doing? 5-minute mark of the fourth. Reed on Jokic. Naz Reid had a killer fourth quarter, had like 14 points and like bodied up against Jokic super well when he was out there. Jokic feels like he sees Gobert step forward 1, which means he thinks that Gordon's going to be available for the lob on the backside, but he's stunning the whole time. So Gordon just like volleyball spikes that ball back. Whether or not that was the right way to go about it, up for debate. But again, just like crowding Jokic, making his life harder. But again, Gobert stunting, not coming all the way over. Really smart. Next. Little screen to get Jokic. Just buries Gobert on the block. Gobert does a good job there, though, but that's not something that I think Minnesota will want to see, is just Gobert getting moved backward like this. Jokic essentially has 2 feet in the paint here, and that's a shot that you would expect him to make. Didn't make it. Credit to Gobert, but that's not great stuff from Minnesota there. Again, essentially 2 feet in the paint there, 2 feet, in the restricted area even. It's a circus looking shot, but for Jokic, I feel like that's not all that circusy. 3 minutes left in the fourth. 2-man game. Waiting to figure out screen, rescreen what. This is the key play of the game for me. Minnesota up 5, 3 minutes left. This is a set that Jokic and Murray and Gordon run constantly throughout their entire tenure in Denver. So this is setting up as a screen into rescreen. You put 2 on the ball with Reed and McDaniels there. That's a short roll every time to Jokic. And what makes Jokic so hard is when you see this. It makes him so difficult to guard, such a hard problem to solve. You've got 1 to guard 2 here now, basically. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody guard this as effectively as Rudy Gobert did. It's the same thing we saw in the first half. He stunts to Jokic, realizing exactly what Jokic wants to do here. Tips it, gets the steal. And that was essentially the game, because I think Ant goes down and scores next play. And this is the next play. Got Jamal Murray, another screen. Got a 3. It's a late contest. It's a terrible shot for Jokic. That's rough. Next, minute 35. This is a play they ran back-to-back sets to get a bucket. I kind of loved it. You're going to see here, Jokic comes off the dribble handoff. Again, just looks sped up. Looks sped up in a way I don't think I've ever seen Jokic before. He makes the hook shot, but it's very funky. Entry to Jamal. You have KCP come around. You have Jamal veer off for the screen to Jokic. Jokic's going to come off, take this three, drills it. I think that's everything. They did about as good of a job of guarding Nikola Jokic as you can do. So what did they do? What is our summary there? I thought it was better when Towns guarded Jokic than when Gobert guarded Jokic. I felt like using Gobert as the help man was a lot more valuable, a lot more useful to Minnesota. He was able to confuse the space in a much better way. He was able to make life way more difficult for Denver on those lob plays for Aaron Gordon, and was able to stunt and recover and confuse the space for Jokic on, Jokic is a supercomputer, like processing things, right? It's almost like a glitch when he sees Gobert coming at him and then like stunting and like trying to figure out, okay, is he doubling? Is he stunting? What's he doing? I thought that was really, really good. Other things that were important: ball pressure from Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Great job fighting over the top of those actions. Great job being in spaces where it was really, really difficult. Third or fourth, making Jokic a scorer is a big thing right now, I would say. Making Jokic go out, shoot those threes, be a guy that has to make 40% of his threes to win these games. I think that's critical. I loved what Minnesota did there. Fifth thing, hoping that Naz Reid can continue to hold up on Jokic, because we saw Jokic move him backward. I don't think they can afford to have many lineups out there when Naz Reid is alone. I think they probably need Naz Reid at the 4. I think they only had that for a stretch in the fourth quarter. No, maybe a stretch in the late third quarter. It was. Reid is the lone big. You always need 2 bigs out there against Jokic. I think that is the biggest thing to stop him from being able to make this impact. And it's got to be Gobert more often as the help defender. You can get things where he's cross-matched and it'll be fine. But if it's not Towns out there, I think that it'll probably be a little bit of a problem, because Reid just isn't quite as big or as long as what Towns is when he's helping over, and hasn't been in the scheme quite as long as Towns has been. Final thing in terms of what I would adjust if I was Denver, I would look to run more off-ball actions to try to get Gobert switched off of Aaron Gordon and onto one of the shooters. And then if I'm going to post Jokic, I would have Porter, whoever the shooter is going to be, KCP, whatever. I would have that guy go high to the wing, keeping Gobert away from the basket as much as I can. Try to run those early actions early in sets to try to get Gobert switched onto one of the shooters and get him away from the basket. And if he's away, and if he decides to stay near the basket, hit the guy who's open then. I think that is a more sustainable way to look at things. If you're Denver, that's easier said than done, because these Minnesota guards fight like hell over the screens. They are really difficult to manage in those spots. The other thing that I will say is I think that Minnesota, in some respect, got a little bit lucky on some smoked layups. They also got a monster game from Anthony Edwards, where he goes 17 for 29 and like just absolutely goes berserk here. We're going to watch a few of those. Again, I'm not going to be here for much longer breaking down this game, but we're going to watch a couple things here that I loved that we saw from Ant. We're going to watch this first set here. You just see him kind of get into rhythm here against KCP. Looks down, almost looks like he said something to him. Drills this 3, starts the game off right. Now look at him fight around that screen there, get a contest on Murray from behind. Then we've got Conley coming down. Look at the movement without the ball real quick. Just lifts and the patience. That's the biggest thing we've talked about. We did a breakdown earlier this year about Anthony Edwards with his patience. His patience was fully on display in this game. The level to which he's improved that is just so drastic throughout the course of the season. Absolutely outstanding there. Absolutely outstanding, I thought, to get into the paint and not settle for that three. This one, he does get into rhythm, drills the three there. Next, you're going to see Gobert get this rebound. I love how he demands the ball basically immediately here, makes it so they can't deny him the ball. I saw some people kind of say, like, should you put Aaron Gordon on Anthony Edwards? I don't hate it all the time. I just will say that I think Edwards' first step is probably a lot for Aaron Gordon. Gordon is a great athlete and is super strong, and I understand the idea of putting like a super strong dude on Ant. I just worry about the first step and allowing him to get downhill. This sets up as like a 1-2 action here. I just love the way that Ant understands space now. This is something that at Georgia, like I felt like he struggled with, right? Look at this, the 1-2 screen it sets up as. I think that this might just be like a full scale set that they run, like almost like a panic set that is pretty wild. If you've seen the panic play from Belmont, for instance, like they'll run this play where it looks like, oh my God, I've got the ball. I picked up the ball. What do I do? And then somebody back cuts on the baseline. It almost sets up like that action. But because Jamal is so high, Ant just has the clear runway, catches the ball and goes. Again, Ant gets the ball, empty side. I mean, just so explosive. It's just hard when he's in empties against Jokic, right? Like, good luck staying in front of him and good luck not fouling when that's going to happen. Jokic does about as well as he can there, I think. Like, he's got his hands up. I don't really blame him. It's hard. Anthony Edwards is way too athletic for those moments. This one, second quarter, Peyton Watson on him. Switch, get Reggie Jackson on him. I mean, too small. Look at how far he bumps Reggie Jackson back. Like, look at how much separation he creates with this bump. This is sick. So, about to make contact right here. Look at where Reggie Jackson ends up. Good luck, man. Too strong, too physical, too athletic, too explosive, and now too good of a shot maker. Anthony Edwards is unequivocally one of the best players in the NBA right now. Good luck trying to stop him. Again, gets the ball in transition. Reggie Jackson cross match. Screen into rescreen by Gobert. Good luck. No shot there. Honestly, that's a shot Denver's probably pretty comfortable with him taking, and doesn't matter. This is just a three. Drills it. I wish we'd seen the action, but we didn't. This is just kind of a panic pass, I feel like, from Jokic trying to get the ball to KCP because he's had the ball for a minute. That's like unequivocally a foul, I believe, on KCP too. Like, comes all the way across. I think he's going to drill him. Ant's just so strong that like it doesn't matter. Just when Ant starting in the weak side corner. Comes up for the DHO. Yeah, just not able to stay in front. They try to trail it. He ends up getting bumped by Kyle Anderson. Drills that shot. Again, DHO from the weak side corner. This time KCP stays in front. Look at how far he bumps him back, guys. Just, that's contact there. He's at like the 14 mark, 14 and a half foot mark. Back foot ends up all the way back here. So we go here to here. That is like 6 feet of space on a bump. And that's way too much for Ant to be able to score. All of these are like semi-contested shots. I don't think Ant will shoot like this the whole series either. He made a lot of these, late contest mid-range jumpers. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe he's just like entering a totally new level of player that we don't know. He made a lot of shots like that, a lot of tough shots. And if you're Denver, I don't even know that you feel terrible about the way that you defended him. And he talks to Reggie Jackson, gets teed up. I think that's like maybe the worst technical foul call I've ever seen in my life was right here. Didn't even say any. I don't even think he said anything to him. I said he talked, but you actually saw the replay. I didn't put it in here, but you see, like, he just stared at him and they called a T. It was unbelievable. Next, you got Christian Brown on Anthony Edwards. I weirdly don't hate the matchup. Christian is like feisty and long and strong, and like part of the problem with Christian is that he doesn't navigate screens super well, but like I think he is a little bit stronger than the guys like KCP and Justin Holiday and Peyton Watson, to where maybe on those bumps he won't get moved as far back. But I mean, the problem is on that like if it's Christian, then you can just run these like screens into rescreens, right? So like Gobert screen 1, ass out rescreen 2, then Gobert Gortats into the paint, tries to make it so that he engages Jokic here. Look at that. Look at that seal. Lead blocking, baby. Fullback. Let's go. Gobert, the fullback, getting to the rim. Ant. That's money. Next, Ant just all the way out here. Again, Brown on him. Set up with this like double high horn set. Switch Gordon onto him. I mean, that's just like devastating. Again, those are the shots where like Ant is not going to make as many shots like this as he did in game 1. If he does curtains, Minnesota will win the series in 6 games, 5 or 6 games, right? But I mean, it's just devastating. It's just so sick to be able to get that much separation on that shot. And now we're into the fourth quarter. We've been in the fourth, but this is near the end here. This might be the last shot. Again, now you've just got Ant. He's telling Towns, go through the play. I want an empty side of the court, because he knows what shot he's trying to get to. The moment that Ant knows that he's trying to get to this shot is right here, where he's telling Cat, hey, go through the play. I know what shot I want to get to. And it's that kind of planning, that kind of pre-decision making that I think has made Anthony Edwards develop and grow into this like special shot maker that we've seen kind of mature over the course of, really, I would argue, since like the moment where Towns went down this season. That was really where we started to see it, I think, where his patience and poise and confidence just really improved. Decision making got way better. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at with Anthony Edwards. Just a sick player. I think the series goes 7. I don't know who wins. That's where I'm at. I would have told you I thought Denver in 6 maybe before this series starts. I no longer think that. I think Minnesota has a interesting matchup on them in terms of the defense and in terms of slowing down their typically devastating offensive half-court execution, to where I think this is going to be a really tight series that I truly think could go either way. If you were betting right now, like, money on Minnesota is like not a bad idea, just given they're up 1-0 and they've got one in the bank already. But man, awesome game. One of the most fun games of the playoffs so far. Had to talk about it. Had to talk about the way they're guarding Jokic. Had to talk about Ant. Thought it was an outstanding basketball game. But that's all I've got for you guys. I'm going to call it there. We'll be back on Tuesday with Bryce. We'll talk about some NBA playoffs. We'll break down more stuff. Had to do 2 shows today, though. because NBA draft is coming up. We've got lottery. Go watch the mock draft pod that Bryce and I did. It was really fun. We talked a lot. Technology only broke down on me once. It was great. Also, we'll have some more playoff stuff to be able to sit through, talk about, break down. Hope you guys enjoy the tape. I will be back on Tuesday, your time, with another one. So till next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.